All right, Rams Vikings back here for another preview. So I already made a video talking about Matthew Stafford and how he'll go up against Brian Flores' defense. That was, a fun video to make. This one should be fun as well. We're going to preview the other side of the ball, so you don't have to watch these in order. It is kind of designed for you to watch them in order, but you can watch them out of order if you want to. I will, at the end of this video, give my predictions. I'm going to start off with some numbers and stats, and then we'll get into some film. Finally, predictions of how I think this game is going to go ultimately, and give a final score. Before I get too much further into this, I will mention I do have a movie channel. If you like watching movies, want to hear me talk about not just football, but movies as well, like film reviews and stuff like that, the link is in the description below. You can check that out. But yeah, okay, let's talk, previewing this game a little bit further. First, to just familiarize ourselves with this side of the ball with these two teams a little bit, let's use some PFF grades, which again, I know aren't everyone's cup of tea. We're just going to look at it, right? Some people get mad when I throw these up. Whatever. I think it's interesting, so if there's something I think is interesting, I put it in the video. You see that the Vikings have some good stuff here. 7th best passing and 4th best receiving, going up against the 23rd ranked coverage. Right off the bat, that scares you if you're a Rams fan. It just does. The Rams do have a slight advantage pass rush, 10th best pass rush to 15th pass blocking. Also worth mentioning, the Vikings' very good left tackle got injured about halfway through the season, so some of his positive grades are still on here. They haven't quite been as good as 15th since he's been injured, although, they played a while with Cam Robinson, the guy they traded for, and put him in. So, yeah, there's that. The rushing has been, it's actually right on the, it's tied here. 14th run blocking, 14th run defense. That's pretty interesting. 20th ranked rushing itself by the Vikings. Sam Darnold's blitzing numbers are pretty interesting to me. So you see, Darnold is a lot better this season when he is blitzed than when he's not blitzed. A huge part of that is Justin Jefferson, who's just so hard to cover one-on-one. Almost always, if you're blitzing, you're leaving everyone one-on-one and usually either putting a safety deep or just sending the house. Still very good when he's not blitzed, though. There's no easy way. I mean, the Vikings offense has been very good this season. It kind of is what it is. You're sometimes just holding on and trying to slow them down, not try to stop them. Worth mentioning, the Rams are right around the middle of the pack in terms of blitz rates. So we'll see some blitzes. We won't see them go crazy. If you look at their PFF grades for each of their players when they're playing against man and when they're playing against zone, this also has yards per route ran here. You see some interesting stuff. Now, I will mention, they weirdly just haven't played against man coverage much this season. So, you see TJ Hawkinson has a 5.38 yards per route ran against man coverage. It's a small sample size with him because he also missed some time. So, take those with a little bit of a grain of salt. This zone, there's enough of a sample size there to factor that in, even for Hawkinson. But you see, Jefferson's hard to cover whether it's man or zone. Addison is better against zone. Jalen Naylor is more of a man beater. Hawkinson, again, the numbers are small sample size. He's still really good against man coverage. Hard to cover him one-on-one. And Aaron Jones is actually better against man as well. Will still make some impact in the passing game, even when it's a zone coverage play. If you look at the numbers the first two times these two teams played, it went really well for Sam Darnold. It's worth mentioning, I know that the Rams won this football game. The Vikings offense was an effective unit the first time they played. Their defense was kind of what let them down, which we already talked about in last week's video. They had 2.5 points per drive, the Vikings did in this game. Darnold was nearly 10 yards per attempt. Jefferson had a lot of those yards, 115. The next leading receiver was Aaron Jones with 2 catches for 37. So this team goes with Justin Jefferson. They just do. Although something worth noting is this happens sometimes where you look at the matchup on paper and think it should be okay for a rushing attack, but it just doesn't work out that way. Aaron Jones did not get much of anything going the last time these two teams played. 19 carries, so they gave him the ball a decent chunk, but only 58 yards. So if they're not running the ball effectively, they're going to have to throw it effectively and maybe even really effectively, given the fact that if you saw my last video, I think it's a good matchup for the Rams offensively. I think the Rams could put up points. If you're not running the ball, you're going to need Sam Darnold to come through, which he nearly did last time these two teams played. So first, let's talk about kind of what we could see a lot of. What we saw in the first game was you see some zone coverage that the Rams, this is what they like to do mostly. Again, we saw their PFF grades. They're not exactly loaded into secondary, so they don't want to have to man up against Justin Jefferson. The issue is you really are picking your poison. Watch this route that Jefferson's going to run. As you see, Darnold's going to run this play action. He looks over in Jefferson's direction, and there's just a window right here. It's not just Jefferson himself. It's also how well they scheme this stuff up. Like, the Vikings just kill man coverage. You see, perfect throw from Darnold. Also, sorry, I misspoke. They kill zone coverage. They do well against man as well, but they just kill zone coverage with the schemes and everything like that. So that's part of the issue with how some of this can go. So what do you do if you're the Rams? Well, do you try and counter by seeing if you can man up against Jefferson? Well, like something like this, which is, it's a zone blitz right here, so, it's a little bit more complicated, but there is a one-on-one matchup with Justin Jefferson. You're not covering Justin Jefferson one-on-one, right? It's just not happening. As you see, Darnold is going to quickly, he had an open guy. He chose not to throw it to the open guy and threw it to Jefferson instead, who is kind of getting tackled as he makes the catch, but he's Jefferson. He's going to make the grab. Like, what you have to do when you're playing against the Vikings, I know they have other weapons, you got to figure out number 18. But to the Rams' credit, they kind of did the last time these two teams played. This is week 8. Again, how much can you take into account? I know all that stuff. But they were able to make things happen. I know Jefferson still had over 100 yards, but they did have some adjustments. After they got torched, first 2 drives, they gave up 2 touchdowns. They kind of were able to settle in a little bit, and part of what they were able to do is something like this, where first, it's a 3rd and 9, and you can get into some of those situations by stopping the run well. The Vikings are going to have to figure out how to either run the ball better or just not run the ball at all is kind of the 2 things they might have to do. You see, now that the Rams know it's an obvious passing situation, they're blitzing, which, wait a second, you already heard me say the Vikings are very good against the blitz. However, on this play, the Vikings have a rub route situation going on that doesn't get executed properly, and because of that, the Rams are able to win. Darnold got bumped and it wasn't able to make an accurate throw. I think he might have even just threw that one into the dirt there. What's also worth noting is I said you usually can't double team someone if you blitz. They were double teaming Jefferson on that play, even with the blitz. So that's a strategy that honestly did get them some stops and got them enough stops to win. It wasn't a dominant defensive performance or anything, but it was able to they were able to have success there. The other aspect is something like this. Because they can stop the run, here is a 1st down and 10. The Vikings are kind of saying, this was still in the second quarter. They're like, our running game isn't doing much, but our passing game is so good. Like, can we, just run a play action here, get something to work? Sure, why not? But here's an issue with that. Look at that player right there. That is Jared Verse. And if you're giving him too many opportunities to just pin his ears back and rush the passer over and over again, like I said, this is an area that the Rams have an advantage. Watch as on this play, you have a tight end trying to block him because of the play action. It doesn't go well. Verse gets the sack. That derailed the drive. 1st down sack. They tried to do what they could, weren't able to get back into a manageable situation, and had to punt the ball away to the Rams. So that's an issue that you could be finding. So, while I do think as a whole, there's a lot more positives than negatives for the Vikings offense, there are a few edges that the Rams do have here. Personally, I think if I'm the Rams defensively, I'm going in with the mindset of we're going to score points. Like, I think if this game is 13, if one team scores 13 points, the Rams are losing. Like, they can't win a low-scoring game. I think they need there to be kind of an expectation of we don't have to stop them every single possession. The goal is how do we get as many stops as possible. So for a lot of teams in a lot of situations, blitzing the Vikings might seem like a dangerous spot because if the blitz gets picked up, Darnold could hit Jefferson for a 50-yard touchdown. For the Rams, that's the way you can get stops, though, and you don't need to stop them every time. You just need to stop them as many times as possible. Also, the fact that they stopped the run well against the Vikings the first time, you wonder if that's going to happen again. If it doesn't, then the Vikings are okay. If it does, though, now Minnesota has to throw on 1st down more. You're letting these good pass rushers, it's not just Verse, they have other guys, but Verse is their best guy on the edge. But you're letting these pass rushers just be able to pass rush consistently. There are some weaknesses on this offensive line for the Vikings, and if you can get home, that's how they can get stops. I think it's going to be a good offensive day for the Vikings. I think they're still going to be able to, if when the Rams play zone, have these routes over the middle, even on first and second down, and mostly have success. I still think, even though the blitzing worked the first time, I would expect the Vikings to be better this time. So this is my predictions page for how this side of the ball will go. The Vikings' offensive points per drive on the year is a very good 2.4. The Rams' defensive points per drive is a not so good 2.25. The first time these two teams played, the Vikings had a very good 2.5 points per drive. I actually think that could go up because I think they'll play against the blitz a little better and they won't have that lull that they had kind of in the third quarter last time these two teams played. The issue is I do think there are ways the Rams can get some stops, and given the fact that I just think it's a bad matchup for the Vikings on the other side of the ball, my final score prediction, if this is a 10-possession game, would mean that I have the Rams 28, Vikings 27, which means I think this could go either way. This feels like a coin flip game to me. I am pumped up to watch it. I could see it going either way. But yeah, I'll lean upset here just because, hey, it's fun. You know, it's fun to predict upsets in the playoffs. But also, I do think the Rams have a really good shot. I don't think the Vikings are dead. The other X factor is, of course, turnovers. Both teams have to protect the football. If one team struggles to protect the football, that would be enough. I don't think a team can win this game losing the turnover battle by more than one turnover. I just don't think that's possible. And these are both quarterbacks who, at times, will put the ball in harm's way. So that's another interesting aspect here. The first time they played, the Vikings actually won the turnover battle by one. Remember, there was the weird face mask in the end zone, no call that allowed the kind of won it for the Rams at the end. But yeah, those are my predictions. That's how I see all of this going. What do you think? Do you agree? Do you disagree? And also, I would just feel so bad for the Vikings if they lost this game, right? I mean, they had this incredible season. If they, twice in the past 3 years, end up with 13 plus wins and get knocked out wild card weekend, that can't happen. That would be a disappointment. And I like the Vikings. I think the Vikings are a good team. Like, don't take this the wrong way. I'm not saying I think the Vikings are a bad team. I just think that they're a really good team. They're playing a good team, and it's a bad matchup. But we'll see how it goes. Should be really fun. Those are my thoughts. What are yours? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.